Welcome to the Nordic Venture Show, your speed date with the hottest Nordic innovations and ventures. In today's episode, we're exploring a venture called Aisti.
Okay, so you know how you sent us that info on Aisti a while back? Yeah, we finally had some time to dig into it, and we went through their website. Like, we looked at their homepage and the insights they have, and that product page too.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting stuff, I gotta say.
Yeah.
What we thought we'd do today is kind of like pull out some of the main things about how they approach this whole sustainable acoustics thing.
Right.
And highlight the things that really kind of jumped out at us from what they're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, we want to give you a good grasp of their core ideas and the ways they're tackling the whole sound issue. It seems like their big thing is about shaping a future where acoustics are sustainable, and they really want to create spaces that are safe and good for everyone's hearing.
Yeah.
And right off the bat, there's this quote from their CEO, Mikko Pananen, that really sets the scene. He says that safe in sound reflects our deep understanding of acoustic properties and passion for creating safe spaces.
Yeah, and it seems like this whole respect for the environment and people's well-being, it's not just like a talking point for them. It's like baked into everything they do, from the materials they use to how they design their products.
Yeah.
For someone like you who wants to get up to speed quickly, but you don't want to miss anything important, this principle they have seems like the key to getting the whole picture.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the driving force. Yeah. When you look at their main product, those Teno acoustic tiles, it really becomes clear.
Right.
These tiles are made from wood fiber. Like cellulose fiber, the main building block of plant cell walls.
Oh, like wood.
Exactly like wood. And these aren't just any sound dampening tiles.
Yeah.
They apparently meet some pretty high standards across the board. Like really strong technical performance, strict fire safety standards, and those all-important environmental goals.
Yeah, and this is where it gets really interesting. They're big on the fact that these Teno tiles are recyclable.
Right.
And they don't have any plastic in them at all. And with all the talk about plastic waste these days, that's a pretty big deal.
For sure.
I know you like to see different sides of sustainability, and this definitely hits on that.
Absolutely.
Plus, they say installing these tiles is pretty straightforward. No need to change how things are usually done.
Right.
Which, points to them being practical in the real world.
Totally. It does. And the big innovation that makes all this possible seems to be their foam forming technology.
Okay.
That's the secret sauce behind these sustainable high-performing tiles. What's really cool is that they've come up with a new way to work with that cellulose fiber we were talking about. They can make these super light and airy tiles without using any synthetic binders or any plastic at all. Imagine that.
Wow.
Taking wood fibers and making this light, almost foamy structure that's amazing at absorbing sound.
So they figured out a way to take this natural resource, wood fiber, and turn it into something that's great at sound absorption without needing to use all those synthetic or plastic-based things they usually put in. Yeah. And they say this whole process can be scaled up easily, and it's cost-effective. So if it works out the way they're saying, it could really help make sustainable options more affordable and available for everyone.
Exactly. It can bridge that gap between being eco-friendly and having a solution that's actually practical and doesn't break the bank.
Yeah, it's like one of those aha moments when you see how they could really make a difference.
Absolutely. And they've got some impressive numbers to back it up. They say their customers are on track to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by a whopping 3.5 megatons by 2032.
Wow.
That's a serious contribution to fighting climate change.
Oh, yeah. And here's a fact that really blew my mind.
Yeah.
The forests in Finland grow the amount of wood fiber Aisti needs in just 11.6 minutes.
Wow.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Really puts into perspective how quickly this resource can be replenished.
It does. It's a powerful image of renewability.
And speaking of efficiency, they claim their tiles generate 29 times more value per ton of raw material than traditional wood pulp. It really makes you think about how we use our natural resources.
Yeah.
And how new ways of processing them can make a huge difference in how much we benefit from them.
For sure.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty of what makes these Teno tiles so effective. They talk about achieving this sensational and natural acoustics because they avoid using those plastic binders.
Right.
And they have the certifications to prove it. They've earned a Class A rating for sound absorption.
Impressive.
Which means these tiles are top-notch at cutting down echoes and unwanted noise.
Yeah.
They also have an M1 certification for low VOC emissions, meaning they release very little harmful chemicals into the air, so they contribute to a healthier indoor environment.
Absolutely. And when it comes to safety, they've achieved a fire resistance class of BS1D0.
Right.
Basically, that means the tiles are pretty resistant to catching fire, and they don't produce much smoke if they do.
Yeah, which is obviously super important for building codes. And then there's the look and feel. They highlight exceptional aesthetics and design because they use bio-based coatings and surfaces.
Right.
So it sounds like they're appealing to architects and designers who want environmentally friendly materials that also look great.
Yeah, they're not sacrificing style for sustainability.
And for places that might get damp, they point out the seamless humidity and water resistance that comes from those natural wood fibers.
Right.
It seems like they've really thought about all the different places where these tiles might end up.
Definitely. They have. And they make a point of saying again that the tiles are free from plastic binders and those irritating fibers you sometimes find in traditional insulation.
Oh, right. Yeah. And something else that stands out is the CO2 sequestration potential of the wood fiber.
Oh, yeah. That's huge.
So it's not just that they're avoiding negative emissions, they're actually storing carbon that was captured by the trees as they were growing.
Right. It's like built-in carbon storage.
And when you look at the whole life cycle of the product, they really emphasize that circularity aspect of the Teno tiles. At the end of their useful life, they can be recycled and actually used again in Aisti's own production process.
That's the ideal scenario, a closed-loop system.
It's like a model for the future.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's not just theory. We're seeing them make real progress. Remember that news they had in their Insights section?
Oh, yeah?
On January 15th, 2025, Aisti announced they're teaming up with Elomatic to build a sustainable factory in Kiti.
Right. That's a big step.
It shows they're serious about scaling up their manufacturing.
And they've got the financial backing to do it.
Yeah, big time. In December of 2024, they managed to get 29 million euros in Series A funding.
Wow.
That's a massive vote of confidence from investors.
Yeah. It shows they believe in Aisti's potential for growth.
Absolutely. And before that, even back in July of 2024, they got another 26 million euros specifically for expanding their sustainable acoustic tile production.
So they're not messing around.
Nope. It really feels like they've got the momentum and the ambition to make a real impact.
Yeah, you get the sense that they're not just innovating with their product, but also with how they grow and build their business.
Totally. And that Insights page also gives you a peek into how these tiles are actually being used and the difference they're making.
Right.
We saw those examples of improving home acoustics in Helsinki and making offices better places to work, like at Onkfitten 22 and Boulevard E2.
Yeah.
And there was that interesting point about how important acoustics are in competitive sports.
Yeah, maybe for clear communication or focus or something.
Right, exactly. It highlights how effective acoustics are about so much more than just cutting down noise.
Yeah.
They're crucial for creating spaces that are comfortable, productive, and even help people perform at their best.
It's really interesting.
And it brings us back to Aisti's core values, which are captured perfectly in this quote from their CTO, Petri Jetsu. He says, "We are driven by a deep respect for people's senses and well-being. We innovate acoustic solutions to bring harmony to the people we serve and the planet we respect."
That really sums up their whole approach.
It does. It's not just about making sound-absorbing materials. It's about designing better spaces in a holistic way and minimizing their environmental impact.
Right. And they emphasize that their technology is cost-effective and energy-conscious, which makes it sustainable by default, as they put it.
Yeah, it's not some niche, expensive green option.
Right. It's meant to be the standard way of doing things.
Exactly. It has the potential to overcome those traditional barriers to going green.
So just to recap for you what we learned from Aisti's own materials. We see a company that's seriously committed to making acoustic solutions that are sustainable and safe for people and the environment.
Right.
They're doing this through their innovative wood fiber technology, especially that foam forming process for their Teno tiles. And their main focus is on both making people's lives better and minimizing their impact on the planet.
Absolutely. And their recent success in getting funding and their plans for that new factory in Kiti show that they're moving forward with a lot of momentum.
Yeah. And that brings us to a question for you. With all this talk about the importance of good indoor environments and the growing demand for sustainable building materials, How do you think these kinds of innovations in acoustics, like what Aisti is doing, will change the way we design and experience the spaces where we live, work, and interact in the years to come?
That's a great question. And thinking about how much Aisti focuses on the circular life cycle of their Teno tiles, it makes you wonder what other industries that currently rely on less sustainable materials could learn from them.
Yeah.
Could they benefit from adopting a similar approach where they reuse and recycle their resources in a closed loop?
It's an interesting thing to think about.
It raises some really important questions about the future of materials and manufacturing.
So there you have it. A deep dive into Aisti based on the information they've shared.
Right.
Hopefully this gave you a good overview of what they're all about without getting bogged down in too much detail.
We tried to keep it concise but insightful.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We appreciate you being here.
Always a pleasure.
All right, until next time.
See ya.
Béone.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Nordic Venture Show. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more stories of innovation from the Nordics.